So confession time here. While recording this episode, I've been dealing with a pretty severe illness. At the point where I'm talking, I'm mostly okay, but I've been really messed up. The point I'm getting at is, I may not have been on top of my game when I was playing Kidou Keisatsu Patlabor. I managed to reach the first boss once, and you just saw the entire fight. Maybe I could have made some more progress if I was in better condition, but Patlabor is a game known for its stupid difficulty, so I probably wouldn't have gotten that much further. Kidou Keisatsu Patlabor was one of the big robot franchises of the 1980s. I thought it had mostly faded away, but apparently there's been a recent push towards a revival. The concept behind the franchise is a more realistic take on giant robots. Just ignore all of the problems with engineering, physics, and economics, which is why we don't have giant robots everywhere right now. Patlabor posits that if there were giant robots, well, they'd be an everyday thing. Tools used in construction, mining, and other places where you have large machines. And of course, the police would have some. Patlabor focuses on the division of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Force that deals with giant robot crime. The game Kidou Keisatsu Patlabor doesn't really tie in with any of the existing media. It's just another case for the team. This time they're dealing with terrorists who have taken a lot of hostages, and so on every one of the game's 5 stages, your goal is to rescue all of the hostages, then get to the end of the level where you fight the boss. When you start the game, you get your choice of if you want to control Noa or Asuma, the 2 main characters. Noa can jump higher, but her gun only fires a single bullet, while Asuma has the weaker jump, but fires a spread of 3. And what this means is that you should never take Asuma. I know having a spread shot sounds good, but the game mechanics don't really work that way. The reason for that is you have limited ammunition. When you start out, hitting B will just swing your baton, and that's what you're going to want to do 90% of the time. Hit start and you have the option to switch weapons, and you really have to collect ammo to make their weapons worthwhile. But the 2 of them don't use the same ammo. Noa's single shot ammo is about 5 times as common as Asuma's triple shot. So just getting enough ammo to be able to use the gun is really tough if you're playing as Asuma. There is one thing you can do to deal with this, and that's die. You only get 1 life, and then you switch over to the partner that you weren't playing as, and if they die, then it's game over. But if you continue, then you retain all of your ammunition. So the strong recommendation, and I saw this from people who were trying to beat the game, is to intentionally beat your head against the wall, refusing to use the guns, until you've maxed out the ammo at 99. Then go in guns blazing. And that is a lot more effective strategy. One small problem with it is that 99 bullets are not enough to get you through a stage. Even stage 1 is super long. It's almost 10 minutes from start to boss. And the later stages are even longer, and are mazes, with doors that don't link to each other. So you'll still want to save your ammo until you've made some progress. Looking at the enemies, you might be thinking, well, these guys don't look too tough. And that's because by this point, I had pretty much memorized their patterns. Once the enemies start shooting at you in this game, they become snipers, firing perfectly in your direction. You can't necessarily safely duck underneath their shots, because if you do that, they'll aim down. The best thing you can do is get something solid between you and them. And of course, most of the enemies take multiple hits to defeat, because why would this game make anything easy on you? Boxes are where you'll find power-ups, and naturally you'll need to smash these open with your baton. I've already mentioned the bullets, but there's also a single battery to restore 1 point of health, and the exceptionally rare large battery which restores about half your health. There's also a shooting range minigame that you play when you first start up the game, and whenever you have to continue. Here your goal is to just shoot the targets and not shoot the crosses. The movement controls for the crosshair are kind of sticky, so it's harder to hit things than it looks like. Maybe the most annoying thing in Kidou Keisatsu Patlabor is how when you die, you go back to the start of the stage. As I mentioned, these are extremely long stages, so death is a pretty significant setback. As I mentioned, the thing that this game is best remembered for in Japan is its absurd difficulty. I found lots of people saying how they just couldn't get past certain points. Now, despite all of the complaining that I've just done, I don't think Kidou Keisatsu Patlabor is a truly awful game. In fact, I'd say it's probably one of Bandai's best games based on a license, and definitely the best one that they've had on the Disk System. But it is relentless and cruel, and at the same time, kinda shallow. You only have the 2 attacks, and there isn't a huge variety of enemies or things to do. I think if they balanced the game less around having enemies snipe you almost as soon as they appear on screen, and instead threw large groups of easier enemies at you with more straightforward behaviors, then this would wind up being pretty good. As it stands, I think the only people who really will want to play it are those looking for a pretty significant challenge.